प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Dev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are continuing the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 3. The Lord's pastimes out of Mathura. So we're a small gathering today,
well,
but
small.
yes, you're a large. You fill the room. All right.
I could use to lose some weight.
But yeah, I understand that many devotees had to do a jagya last night. Apparently there was a flooding, you said?
What's that?
There was some flooding that took place?
Yeah, this morning.
Yeah.
In the bathroom.
Yeah.
In other places.
Ah, okay. Anyhow, so, but I see a camera here, so perhaps there are many other devotees joining us on YouTube. Invite your friends, because this is a very beautiful section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Uddhava's descriptions of the Lord's pastimes. So, we're on text 2 of the 3rd chapter, and we'll chant it. Sandipane sakrit proktam,
Sandipane
sakrit proktam, Brahmaditya savishtaram,
Brahmaditya savishtaram,
Tasmai pradadvatam varam putram,
Tasmai pradad varam putram,
Mritam pancha janadarat,
Mritam pancha janodarat,
Sandipane sakrit proktam,
Sandipane sakrit proktam,
Brahmaditya savistaram,
Brahmaditya savishtaram,
Tasmai pradadvaram putram,
Tasmai pradad varam putram,
Mritam pancha janodarat.
Mritam pancha janodarat.
Maharaj, you like to chant?
Sandipane sakrit proktam,
Sandipane sakrit proktam,
Brahmaditya savishtaram,
Brahmaditya savistaram,
Tasmai pradadvaram putram,
Tasmai pradadvaram putram,
Mritam pancha janodarat.
Mritam pancha janodarat. Guna, would you like to? You don't have a device there. Okay. So, Sandipane, of Sandipani Muni,
Sandipani Muni,
Sakrit,
Sakrit,
once only,
once only,
Proktam,
Proktam,
instructed,
Brahma,
all the Vedas with their different branches of knowledge.
all the Vedas with their different branches of knowledge.
Aditya,
Aditya,
after studying.
after
Savistaram,
Savishtaram,
in all details.
in all detail.
Tasmai,
Tasmai,
unto him.
unto him.
Pradat,
Prada,
rewarded.
reward.
Varam,
Varam,
a benediction.
benediction.
Putram,
Putram,
his son,
his son,
Mritam,
Murtam,
who was already dead,
who was already dead,
Panchadana,
Panchajana,
the region of the departed souls,
the region of the departed soul,
Udarat,
Udarat,
from within.
from within.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord learned all the Vedas with their different branches simply by hearing them once from his teacher, Sandipani Muni, whom he rewarded by bringing back his dead son from the region of Yamaloka. Purport. No one but the Supreme Lord can become well-versed in all the branches of Vedic wisdom simply by hearing once from his teacher. Nor can anyone bring a dead body back to life after the soul has already gone to the region of Yamaraj. But Lord Krishna ventured to the planet of Yamaloka and found the dead son of his teacher and brought him back to his father as a reward for the instructions received. The Lord is constitutionally well-versed in all the Vedas, and yet to teach by example that everyone must go to learn the Vedas from an authorized teacher and must satisfy the teacher by service and reward. He himself adopted this system. The Lord offered his services to his teacher, Sandipani Muni, and the Muni, knowing the power of the Lord, asked something which was impossible to be done by anyone else. The teacher asked that his beloved son, who had died, be brought back to him, and the Lord fulfilled the request. The Lord is not, therefore, an ingrate to anyone who renders him some sort of service. The devotees of the Lord, who always engage in his loving service, are never to be disappointed in the progressive march of devotional service. Omagina tamarandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshur militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave namaha mukam karoti vachalam pangalangayate girim kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurun dinatar Paramananda. Hare Krishna. So we can talk a little bit about this. I was reflecting, I was going through to prepare for this and going back through the previous chapter, and now we're in this chapter, and trying to and finding myself really struck by Uddhava's narration. How Uddhava is, we have to understand, Uddhava is returned from the experience that he describes in this narration. He's described as it's interesting how he describes Krishna's pastimes, but he describes them, they bring pain to him. The pain is not the pain of remembering those, but remembering that now he's not here, he's left. And so there's this separation, this pain of separation mixed with this ecstasy of remembrance. So we have here Uddhava continuing his remembrance in separation. And he's been remembering the Lord in Vrindavan, And now he's beginning to remember the Lord's activities outside of Vrindavan. And he chooses, he brings to his mind this particular episode that takes place shortly after, as far as I understand, Krishna's killing of Kamsa. In the previous chapter, he describes how Krishna kills Kamsa, comes to Mathura, kills Kamsa. And now he's been embraced by the Yadu dynasty, his mother, and naturally this next question, what about your education? What about it? There is I was trying to go deeper into this, and I discovered Romapada Maharaj was asked about this. Well, why didn't Krishna go to school in Vrindavan? I mean, were there no Gurukulas? Why didn't he get an education in Braja? And the answer is very, very interesting, and it's described in the Gopal Champu. So, not being a great student, I printed it out. And I'm going to try to narrate the answer to this, because it's really beautiful. So, this comes from the Gopal Champu. It's the Purva Champu, part 3, chapter 33. So it begins, Narada is explaining to Krishna. I'm not sure exactly where he's doing this. Are you familiar with Gopal Champu? No, I'm not at all. How about you, not at all? Okay. Well, I'm not exactly, this is homework for those who are listening online. You can research and find out what is the circumstances in which Narada is addressing Krishna and Balaram. So he's describing how Vasudeva will have Garga give you the sacred thread, and Rohini will come, but not the people of Braja. So why didn't the residents of Braja come to see Krishna and to observe his sacred thread ceremony? Because Narada explains that they can't stand to see him as a Kshatriya. They can't stand to see that now he's leaving his Vaishya life and he's become a Kshatriya. Now what? What next? Yeah, what next? And then Krishna thinks, their grief about my being a Kshatriya and it's not proper. But Rohini is the friend of my mother, but what will I do? So then Narada describes how they're going to go to Gurukula. He says, you two brothers will go to the bank of the Avanti River, to the enlightened school of Sandipani, and you'll enter the Gurukula. And you'll astonish, just like in this particular verse, he describes how you'll astonish everyone by studying and understanding each subject in one lesson. And the teachers will see this and praising you in exasperation. The husband of Lakshmi has limbs softer than a new sprout. Service to him brings into blossom all desired objects of unlimited servers. The great learning makes Saraswati greedy for his knowledge. He collects wood on the instructions of his guru's wife with great pleasure. So this is describing to somebody what happens there in the ashram of Sandipani Muni, how the two lords, Krishna and Balaram, they follow this system that Srila Prabhupada also describes here of service in the ashram. It brought to my mind Krishna's statement, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pariprashnena sevaya, that that we approach the Guru for knowledge through a process of inquiry and service. So there's it is not simply posing questions, but there's some service must be involved. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshanaha. So here we also see that the two brothers, Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Lords, they entered into the ashram and they engaged in service. And of course we have this amazing pastime of them going out to collect firewood, which is also described here, along with Sudama, and getting lost in the woods. Krishna, just imagine, here we have the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he, well, not exactly lost. No, I'm sorry, I spoke wrongly. They didn't get lost, but they got caught, right? They got caught in a there was like a storm of some sort. Is that? So there was some sort of a storm, and they just, like we had the rains pouring, and they just took shelter somewhere, and there they were, and they had to wait it out. They had to wait it out. It's interesting how Krishna's relationship with Indra can be often quite a opportunity for pastime. So in this case, Indra gave the opportunity for him to, for Krishna and Balaram to spend the night with Sudama and to relish this relationship of service, to demonstrate that through service, in service to the Guru, one can accept all and should accept austerities and dedication, and even in the midst of trouble, like a storm. So it continues that in the next chapter, or actually this is a completely other chapter of Gopal Champu, the Uttara Champu, part 1, chapter 8. Okay, so when Vasudeva was determined to have the sacred thread ceremony, Rohini did not propose bringing the people of Vraja. Though Krishna and Balaram were eager for this ceremony, understanding that the Yadus were rather indifferent to the people, the people of Vraja in their minds and actions, and considering it would be painful for the Vraja people, they decided not to invite them, though all citizens were invited. What is the use of our wanting to describe this event to them? But through Sudama, this is a different Sudama, the garland maker, they had Nanda hear a sweet letter. So this letter of Krishna to Nanda Maharaj is described here, and I've heard it spoken of. There's a wonderful series of talks about this that Madhavananda Prabhu has given. When you go to his Facebook page, you'll see he spent 30, 40 days talking about Krishna's Mathura, not leaving Vrindavan, and it's all connected with Kurukshetra. It's a big narration.
In the 60s and 70s now, lectures.
He's now 60, in the 60 or 70th version.
Lecture of the series, yeah.
Yeah, it just keeps going. Madhavananda Prabhu. You go to his Facebook page, because there's so much here. So I remember one of the episodes was talking exactly about what happened after Kamsa is killed. And Nanda Maharaj is there, and Krishna is there, and Vasudev's there, and now what's going to happen? Is Krishna going back with Nanda Maharaj? That would break the heart of Vasudeva. So Nanda says, no, you must stay here, and I'll stay too. And then they go, then Krishna says, but if you stay here, then all the residents of Vrindavan will want to come too. And then Nanda said, well, that's fine, let them all come. And finally, the deciding factor is that Krishna says, well, what about the cows? If you leave and everyone leaves Vrindavan, then who will take care of the cows? And then Nanda Maharaj says, well, we'll bring all the cows. And then, but Krishna says, but you have, 900,000. You yourself have 900. This is a city, there's no room for them. There's no pastures, there's no place. So in this way, Krishna somehow convinces Nanda Maharaj that he has to go out of, but he said, don't worry, I'll just stay some time with Vasudeva and Devaki and the Yadus, satisfy them, and then I'll be back. So now Madhavananda describes that he wrote different letters, and this is one of those letters. So in this letter, he describes, "O Father, tomorrow in the morning the Yadus will accept me as their sons by the sacred thread ceremony, showing us to be Kshatriyas. I will accept this external show as a Kshatriya, but internally I am still a cowherd. Previously I said that I would come to see you, my relatives, and how can I, your son, do the opposite with my tongue? Do not lament that you will not be present at the sacred thread ceremony. In Mathura, I hide my real nature for the benefit of your friends, the Yadus. Perform the Gayatri initiation ceremony for my Vraja friends, who are my very form, and make my vow complete." So, this is somewhat satisfying to Nanda and Upananda and so on. And they think, yes, Krishna has not forgotten us. So, the other question though comes, and why Sandipani Muni? And this is described here.
So Sandipani Muni lived in Mathura?
No, he lived in Avanti.
Where?
Avanti, Ujjain. So they left Mathura, they went to Ujjain, where Sandipani Muni was. And who is Sandipani Muni? We know Sandipani Muni is the son of Purnamasi. So there's that connection that we have. Purnamasi is the mother, who's also a great mystic. Madhumangala is the son of Sandipani Muni. So there's these direct connections, but Sandipani Muni himself is a little different, and we'll talk about that. So here it says, this is why Sandipani Muni. So, according to the ancient sages, one should study by going to the Gurukula. Though Vyasa and others of great stature would be suitable as gurus and are well known, they will think that we too already have all knowledge. So this is Krishna and Balaram speaking about who to go to Gurukula. So, and they think, well, Vyasa won't work. He's certainly suited, but Vyasa will recognize us and think, well, how can I teach you? How can I teach you? The Vedas, you're the source of the Vedas. How am I going to teach you? So, therefore they will show some hesitation to be our guru. They are the highest Vaishnavas and have realized the Vaishnava philosophy. We want to study. They want the school experience. Krishna and Balaram, they're hankering to be schoolboys and to have that experience of going to school and learning, not like our present day kids. I guess there are some kids, I know there are kids, there are definitely children who they want to go to school. Especially, I mean, there are some countries, I mean, in India, for example, there are many, many children who, unlike America, you know, people they want to play. But for the children in countries where, you know, there's not really, if you don't go to school, basically you go to work, is what goes on. And they want to go to school. And there are stories of people, I was listening the other day, some time back, Radhanath Maharaj was speaking at a program in London, and it was an event, it was a special event honoring women's empowerment or something like that. And so he was talking about a lady in India who has founded a program for orphan children, and her own life story, and how to get to school, what she had to do to go to school was like incredibly, you know, she had to sneak to, first of all, she was not allowed to go to school. She was a Muslim girl, and her parents were, you know, said, you don't need an education. So they just put her to work. And her work was herding the buffaloes, I guess, or like that. So she made some arrangement that she took the buffalo to a particular watering hole where they would be able to, you know, relax and so on. And she ran off. She just, you know, somehow got to the school, did the classes, ran back. In this way, she just was completely absorbed. And what happened to her later, etc., is frightening, but that's another story. But so here we have Krishna and Balaram having that same enthusiasm. They want to go to school. They want to be students. But how can they have a guru who's like Vyas? Though we have knowledge by our nature, it is best that we go to the Gurukul. So this is the other reason. If we break the rules, it will not be auspicious for the world. So they need to teach by example. This is what is said in this purport as well, that the Lord is constitutionally well versed, and yet to teach by example that everyone must go to learn the Vedas from an authorized teacher and must satisfy the teacher by service and reward, he himself adopted this system. So he needed to teach others. A person who is fixed in Brahman and worships Shiva would be the best guru. So, that's what they chose. They chose to, it says, as described here, the great soul Sandipani of a dynasty from Kashi is a worshipper of Shiva. He previously went to Prabhas and now lives in Avanti, a place emanating happiness and near to a Shiva temple. We should go there, but in such a way that others do not know. Otherwise, if it is widely known that we have gone far away, the enemies will give problems to the Yadus. And people of Vraja from our father's family down to the paid servants will give up their bodies. What to speak of our mother, Yashoda. So, that was the reason he chose Sandipani Muni. Because Sandipani Muni was not a Vaishnava. He was a worshipper of Shiva. He didn't fully recognize the Lord. He could be their teacher. Of course, and in Vrindavan, if Krishna and Balaram were to be students in Vrindavan, their nature in Vrindavan is to be completely independent and play tricks and have all kinds of, they would be the worst possible students, not exactly the examples to the world of how to be a good student. As we see here, I mean, here in this pastime, Krishna and Balaram, they exemplified the ideal student. One, first of all, learning. They just could learn just by hearing once. They learned everything. And then, and by their service, And the whole story of going to collect firewood, even in a storm, they went out, they collected, they risked their lives, so to speak. Of course, they can't risk their lives, but still, in the context, it appears like that. And then finally, by reward, service, what Srila Prabhupada describes, service and reward, dakshin. So this system of dakshin, they exemplified. Now, by this time, it appears that Sandipani Muni had some idea that these were no ordinary boys. The way they learned and so on. I never found any place where it's sort of, that they realized, or that Sandipani Muni realized that this is Bhagavan, but he at least understood that their power seems to be so great that they could do the impossible. And what was impossible in his mind was to bring back his dead son, who had apparently drowned in the ocean. So they agreed, Krishna and Balaram agreed. And as we hear later in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how they left, went to Prabhas ocean. The Prabhas is, as far as I understand, is on the coast of what we know as Gujarat right now. And now at that time Prabhas Ketra, and must be what we know as the Arabian Sea or something like that.
No one.
The Arabian Sea, the coast of. But anyway, ocean, big body of water. And they entered in and they found this demon, Sankachuda, and who they could understand was the culprit who had captured the son of Sandipani Muni. But it was too late. The son had already been dispatched and was no longer in the grips of Shankachuda. But they took the opportunity to kill the demon and obtain his Shanka, which became the Panchajanya? The Shanka of Krishna's Shank. So that's his Shank he got from Shankachuda. And they proceeded to the next point of the journey of Sandipani Muni's son, which would be Yamaloka. So this is an interesting, something I would love to know more about. Well, actually I don't. I'm sorry, I should take that back. I would not like to know more about it.
If he went to Yamaloka, you would think he would be more pious than that.
Well, this is what's, this whole, not only that, but just this whole progression of souls and how, what exactly happens and how does it happen? And there's Yamaloka and how long was he there? I mean, when did this happen? And I mean, it raises too many questions and there probably aren't any answers to it, and so therefore I take back my assertion that I would like to know more about it because it's probably not possible, and therefore I'm going to put it aside. But curiously, or whatever, those who know more than I do may understand it. But in any case, he's there. He's in Yamaloka. And I believe, as I recall, and I didn't have time to go back and study this, Yamaraj had kept him there knowing or expecting that Krishna was, to get Krishna to come and to be able to receive Krishna and Balaram in his abode. And happily, he returns the son of Sandipani Muni, who comes back. And in this way, Sandipani Muni is wonderfully rewarded, and the boys return to Mathura to continue their pastimes. So, wonderful thoughts, wonderful reflections and remembrances that Uddhava is having, with so many lessons involved. The end of this purport, Srila Prabhupada says, how he describes how the Lord is not an ingrate. He's not ungrateful. In fact, he is so grateful to anyone, he says, to anyone who renders him some sort of service. So it's just any sort of service, the Lord is very grateful. To the extent that the devotees of the Lord, this is Prabhupada saying, the devotees of the Lord who always engage in his loving service are never to be disappointed in the progressive march of devotional service. So that statement, the progressive march of devotional service, that's what we're on. We're on a march. We're on the progressive march of bhakti. One step at a time. Sometimes I feel like, why do I have to march? Why don't you just pick me up and just, take me from here, where I am now, full of so many faults, full of so many anarthas, just pull me out and take me back. But apparently that's not Krishna's way. He moves us along progressively. He builds us, he forms us step by step. So we go like that. It's a march in one sense, but it's not a tough march. It's not a forced march. What was it we have histories of forced marches. We have in our own, what to call it, land of America, we have the Trail of Tears of the Cherokee Nation being forced to leave their homeland to go to the western part of, I guess Oklahoma is where they were, and they died I don't know how many actually made it there. And then we have in China, wasn't there some sort of great march of some sort? Anyhow, there have been a number of marches of people, but this is not the same kind of, it's not the march of devotional service. The progressive march on the path of devotional service is not a forced affair that we are, being, hop, 2, 3, 4. It's nothing like that, or we're forced to move along in step. No, but we are, in many ways, it's more of a progressive dance towards in devotional service. But what Srila Prabhupada is saying here, that we are never to be disappointed. If we stay on this march, we stay on this progressive path, then Krishna, he will make sure that we go forward. That is his promise. So, just a few things. I hope Maharaj, would you like to add anything to the story of Sandipani Muni?
Just musing on how this episode talks about Krishna and Balaram getting, wood for their spiritual master. And I guess the spiritual master is performing yajnas or something like that. But that made me think about the verse Tad Vigyanartam Saguru Evavika Chet Sama Sama Pani Shrotriya Brahmanishna. So the verse says, Tad Vigyanartam Saguru Evavika Chet. One has to accept a bona fide spiritual master to get Vedic knowledge, which is kind of the theme. But the second line says, Samapani Shrotra Brahmanishtam. One needs to bring firewood to the spiritual master. So I assume that this is in line with this verse that they were bringing firewood, which the only reason, either for cooking or probably more likely for
Jagya.
fire sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so the disciples or the shishas of the spiritual master would bring some kind of firewood for a yagya to the spiritual master. That was evidently common. Of course, now we generally don't bring firewood to the spiritual master.
Here, just give me the out. Yeah. Yeah, that. Srila Prabhupada. That would be interesting, right? The next initiation. I want firewood, And we all go out to the dakshin. That might be a little easier than now.
You hand your spiritual master a bale of firewood.
Because now our system is you go out with your, and you start collecting alms from various people. But if you say, well, just go and bring some firewood, might be easier for some of the shishyas. But no, and what's interesting though also is that, for us at least, is that the dakshin never ends. Because and the instruction never ends. I mean, we never really leave. Krishna and Balaram went to Gurukula and they learned everything, and then they went home. And we enter to our ashram, the ashram of our guru, for our lifetimes, which is also interesting. We don't ever actually leave when we enter into the ashram or the shelter of our guru or gurus. So in one sense, that's how ISKCON has been set up, as being Srila Prabhupada's ashram for us, where we can enter in and we don't ever have to leave. And we remain students, and we remain indebted, and we remain engaged in service, and we should also bring dakshin and what does he want? He wants more students, more people. We have a saying in our SPT, that more devotees and happier devotees. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you there in the audience. Hare Krishna.
All the people out there
in YouTube land.
YouTube land.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj, for
keep those cards and letters coming.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Any suggestions? Hare Krishna. Haribo, thank you.
It's also interesting that Krishna, as you were saying in the beginning, that Krishna is the source of the Vedas, so why would anybody teach him the Vedas? We have, 15 Vedas, Sarvara, Ameva, Vedya, Vedanta, Veda, Vedaya, Vachanam. Krishna is the source, the goal, and the purpose of the Vedas.
Yeah.
He's the knower, the source, and the goal of the Vedas. So anyone that thinks that there's some other purpose of the Vedas hasn't read 15, Sarvasya Chaham, Hridisani Vishnu, Manta Scripture Gyanam, Polanam Cha, Vedas Sarvara, Ameva, Vedya, Vedanta, Veda, Vedaya, Chaham. So he is, it's interesting. It's kind of like they were just trying to fly under the radar, evidently, according to the Gopal Chakra.
Yeah.
Somewhere where it wasn't obvious that teaching them the Vedas was pointless.
Just to conclude, this is another from this same. It says in 1617, after considering in this way, the two made a plan to inform the Yadus and fool all others. They decided to fool everyone by making a show of performing vows alone in their houses. Thus, going far away secretly will prevent others from coming. So they also were concerned if we go to the Sandipani Muni school and we have a very public show of initiations and so on, then others will follow, and then the enemies of the Yadus will know that we're not there, and they'll come and they'll attack. So this is Krishna's interesting life. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Do we have any idea how far Avanti is from?
How far Ujjain is? Yeah, I mean, it's from Mathura. I know by train.
Where is it? Is it in Gujarat?
It's in Madhya Pradesh.
It's Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah. Yeah, Ujjain. It's in Madhya Pradesh, and it's probably not more than about 6 hours or so by train.
What modern city is in that?
Ujjain is a pretty modern city. I mean, it's a developed city. It's not a huge city, but it's biggish. Yeah, I've gone there.
The modern Avantipur?
Yeah, they call it Avantipur.
Oh.
Yeah. And the ashram of Sandipani Muni is there.
Oh, really?
And you can go there. And the big Shiva temple is also there.
Yeah.
And the Shiva temple is their Shiva is quite a Vaishnava. I mean, it's a mix of Shiva and Vaishnava, and they tend to see Shiva there as, from what I could see, as a devotee. It's a different mood.
Differently
than most Shiva temples. It's more, he's a devotee of Krishna.
Between, what is it, Vishnu Kanchi and Shiva Kanchi?
Yes, yeah, not like, or Kanchipuram or someplace like that where Shiva is.
Now, Shankachuta also, didn't he have something to do with Radharani? I'm trying to remember what that.
Well, there's
a whole pastime of Shankachuta.
Yeah, and trying to steal the gopis. And I'm not sure if that's the same.
Krishna kills him or something?
Yeah, because he has a gem. We have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Because
in the Krishna books.
Yeah.
10th canto.
I'm not sure that's the same Sankachuta.
Oh, it could be a different Sankachuta.
I kind of think so, because he kills him. Because this Sankachuta is in the ocean.
Is in the ocean. He lives in the ocean like.
Yeah, he's a shank, like a conch.
Sankachuta was called that
because he had
a thing on his head.
He had this. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. The demon's name was Sankachuta because on his head there was a valuable jewel resembling a conch shell.
Oh.
So, from what I don't think this is the same.
Isn't there a whole chapter in Krishna book about Sankachuta?
There is, yeah. And he was an associate of Kuvera.
Yeah, I think so.
But I'm pretty sure this is not the same Sankachuta. Okay, so Sandipani. Maybe it's all right, so that's homework.
Researching Krishna book.
Well, the Krishna book talks about. Let's see what Sandipani Muni in Krishna book.
Put in. When I go upstairs, I'll check my database and see what we come up with Sankachuta and the Puranic concordance to find out what they have.
Oh, it's not. I'm sorry. I missed. There's Sankachuta and there's Sankashura.
Oh, similar names.
Yeah.
Sankashura and.
All right. Anyone who's still listening out there? Correction. Sankashura and Sankachura. Chura meaning on the head.
Which one killed Sandipani Muni?
Sankashura.
Sankashura. Oh, Sankashura.
Sankashura.
Oh, okay.
So the Shank Ashura,
Yeah,
he was a demon
that was
conch.
right?
Okay? And Shankachura is the demon who, the person who's got the shank-like gem on his chura, his head, his turban.
Head?
Turban. Chura is like hair, hair, head, turban. So that's the answer.
Oh, okay.
I got it mixed. Sankashura is
We
the.
unraveled that.
Yes, all answers. Example of how we're nothing like Krishna. Hear it once and remember it.
There's a lot of those very similar things. Sometimes there are, even in the Puranic encyclopedia, you see that there's sometimes several people with the same name.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're different.
Even Krishna. We have Krishna and Krishna.
Right. Not technically Krishna and Krishna are completely different words.
Yeah, they're different words, but it's certainly like Sankachura and Sankashura.
Right.
We get them
Well,
confused.
the other day when Hatsarupa was reading downstairs, we had Sarvabhauma and Satyavati confused,
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of other yadus that are kind of have very similar names. What's the one that I always find easy to confuse? I can't think of it now. But,
Hare Krishna.